Hello, everyone. Today we are going to discuss a book, The Art and Science of Pivoting, Mastering the Mindset of Change. Yes, you heard me right. It's change. We see change as a very dynamic concept because of its very nature, and it's difficult to cope change that is both emotionally and physically sometimes. So, this book is a practical guide for founders, leaders, and builders for navigating the uncertainty of life. And so we have a writer who is actually building the Travel Buddy as his company. And he today I feel very honored to welcome the author of this book, Mr. Saurav Chakraborty, sir. He's a startup
Hi.
founder. Yeah, hi, sir. He's a startup founder, operator, creator with over 2 decades of experience across corporate leadership, media, and entrepreneurship. He's a founder and CEO of Travel Buddy, a community-driven travel platform. So, this book is not a checklist, but a compass for anyone building something that is truly matters. So, welcome to this interview, sir.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I'll thank Evinsper Publishing also to really bring this book to reality. Okay, and I'm very excited to talk about what the book is all about. How did the book happen? What led to the book happening? Because this is all about, the book has been written based on real life experience, but it's also not a autobiography or anything like that, right? It's more a non-fiction book of with examples, and I would love to talk more about it today.
Okay, so let's start with simple question. So, why did you feel the need to write this book?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I mean, I would love to tell you about it. So, actually, I did never plan to write this book, and also, if you look at it, I never thought I could write a book, honestly speaking. So, how this happened was that I started this company, Travel Buddy, in March 20, sorry, 15th of Jan 2020. Okay, and everyone knows when COVID happened. COVID happened in I think Kejriwal ji announced the lockdown on 28th of March
Yeah,
2020, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah.
And my company was shut down 2 months, almost shut down 2 months after beginning, right? Because when COVID happened, obviously there was a lockdown. Travel was out of the question. We all know that this COVID period lasted for more than 1 year, did, and now I can start my company. So that didn't happen. COVID 2 happened. We all know what happened in 2021. In fact, the COVID 2 is much, much more than the COVID 1. We all know how severe it was. So, whatever I planned, it never happened. Okay. And then, after the COVID 1 and COVID 2, the funding winter started in startups. There was especially starting with educational giant, which started showing problems, and that's why investor sentiment, became bad. So in my entire journey of 5 years, the first 3 years was all about whatever I planned, it never happened. And the reason we are sitting here today and standing today, our company is going great guns. We have, more than 5 million users on the platform. We are a EBITDA positive company, and we are doing good revenues and planning to scale in the coming years. I realized that it is only one thing: if you can keep pivoting and changing and not giving up. When I started thinking that, I said, ki, okay, let me look at other brands, large brands. Is this common? Like, what about the Netflix? What about the Slack? What about the, Airbnb? Did they also face this kind of challenges? The Instagram and the YouTube. So when I started researching, I saw, wow, Instagram was a whiskey app. YouTube was a dating app. And look at where YouTube is today, and look at where Instagram is today. So that's where I felt, and this happened in 2025. I felt that I need to write a book because so many founders I have been in the last 5 years. I've met so many younger founders. I'm 45 years old, but if you look at younger founders, they will say, no, I'm going to shut down my company because, this is not working. And I think that is not right. They are giving up before pivoting. So I felt that, this book should be written. And here I am with the book. And thanks to Evans Pub also for partnering with me in getting this book out.
Great, sir. So you talk about pivoting. So how do you define a good pivot versus a panic pivot? What is the difference between both?
A pivot is a process. Okay, a bad pivot is anything that is done in a okay, this is not working, let me do this. That's a bad pivot. Pivot doesn't happen like that. And in my book, I have a section. The book is very simple, broken into five parts. It starts with the, psychology of pivoting, which talks about the pivot mindset, mainly about my journey, how I left a seven-figure salary. By the way, I was at Facebook before this, and I was getting paid a seven-figure salary. Can you imagine that when I joined Travel
God.
Buddy, I left a seven-figure salary with a zero salary?
Yeah, it
So that
takes
requires a
courage.
cycle. It takes courage, it takes a mind. Then my second part of the book is when to pivot. The third part of the book is how to pivot. The fourth part is X factors that you require, okay, that are beyond your, capabilities. And the last part is the mental pivot because everything ultimately requires your mind to work. Your mentally you need to be okay. So I think the bad pivot is a pivot that is done without thinking. And a lot of these pivots I have seen people, okay, let's do one thing, let's just change that strategy. Okay, yeah, this is not working, let's do one thing, let's shut this division down. That's a bad pivot. A good pivot is when you are thinking, you are looking at, in my book, I have explained pivot readiness matrix. And readiness matrix is there are five parameters that you have to evaluate. Out of those five parameters, if three parameters are blinking red, then it is the time to pivot. So, and once this book is read, then obviously people will get that idea. And I think in Travel Buddy that was exactly the case. Or by the way, even in life, you cannot decide tomorrow I'll pivot and suddenly get up in the morning and decide that, oh, it doesn't happen, right? It takes time. That's why we say you need 21 days to break a habit,
Great.
right? Or 66 days. I don't know which one is correct, if it's 21 or 66. So
21 then stick.
21 exactly. So whether it is life or whether it is business, a bad pivot is what is done knee jerk. A good pivot is done after thinking, applying, seeing if it's working, and then taking it to scale.
Great. Sir, there's one one I would say the emotion that is sometimes it's ego. So what does the ego play in delaying the necessary pivot?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think ego is a massive problem. And we all are humans, we all have ego. So I'll never ever comment on that because even I might have a lot of ego, right, as a human being. But ego in business actually creates a lot of challenges. I have always seen a directly proportional curve also in my life. Like, honestly speaking, I am not a exceptional student. I was a okay student. I have not, studied from the most top institutes. But because of that, I think what I have in me is an ability to, work hard, be persistent, and be humble. And most importantly, not have a very high ego because ego resists change. So the biggest problem with ego is that, oh, I have started this thing, I had worked in this place and I was this guy. I'm not going to do sales. I'm telling you, one of the biggest problems that I have seen with few other, companies that, I have worked with or friends that I have seen. Somebody will start a business, right? And they have come from a corporate, like, I have come from a Facebook. And, they will say, okay, I'm going to get a sales team. Now, instead of getting a sales team, the first sales for the first 1 year should be done by the founder. The pipeline should be, but then the ego will come into play. Oh, I have never done sales in my life. Why should I do sales? The sales will be done by, people that I will hire. But you have to understand, nobody is going to sell as passionately as a founder will sell. So, ego halts a lot of things. And most importantly, ego creates resistance to pivot. And that's why it's very important to, detach your ego when the business is not working and see that whether, this thing requires a change and not to blame yourself for it. If we start blaming ourselves for it, then no founder will survive. Out of 100 things that we do, honestly speaking, 95 things do not work. It's only those five things that work. So you cannot blame yourself.
I think so. Pivot applies to personal life as well, not just startups.
Oh, absolutely. So, honestly speaking, when I started thinking about pivoting, I didn't think about writing a business book. My example of pivot, and you have read in the book also, in the beginning, I talk about societal pivot,
Yeah.
human pivot, and a product pivot. So what I have written in the book is primarily product pivot, right? And Instagram becoming what it is today because it's decided to focus on its photo feature, or a YouTube becoming a video platform. But there are human pivots. Look at David Goggins. Okay, look at Ankur Warikoo, right? I mean, from a nearby to today, he's a guru of advisor or a guru, and he's guiding so many youngsters. Or a David Goggins, who was an overweight bullet kid, who became an ultra marathon runner. That's a human pivot. Then there are societal pivots. Honestly speaking, what is a remote working revolution is a societal pivot. Okay. Or if we look at, for example, LGBT rights, that's a societal pivot. Something that was not considered to be that was considered to be taboo once. Today, people are cheering for it. So I think, societal pivots, human pivots are very much there. There'll be hundred such examples. And one thing I would like to say is that most of the time when a pivot is done, sometimes it's very good. It doesn't give results immediately. That's
Hmm.
again something that I would like to share. And YouTube didn't become a YouTube on the day one that it pivoted.
Mhm.
Or Instagram didn't become an Instagram. I was going back to my Instagram before the call today, and I started doing Instagram from 2016. And I remember that I had only one like on each of my posts. And today, if you post something, you will see there are these 100 likes, right?
Yeah.
So it takes time for the pivots to happen. And yeah.
Hmm. So when we talk about founders, particularly for a startup, so what is the biggest myth a founder have about pivoting?
Well, I think, honestly, pivoting is never a new term. It's been a term forever, but it's a much ignored part if we look at it, because I think the other things are much more fancy and much more popular, and that's why I tried to write the book. People talk about, the idea. Okay. So there's an idea. Idea gives result to the MVP. MVP is called as the minimal viable product. From the minimal viable product, you raise funds, you grow the product, you use technology, and you make it into a brand. And from that brand, that becomes an iconic brand like Netflix is today, or a Slack, or whatever. I think pivot is in between and everyone ignores it. So the myth that I would say is that, oh, pivoting to is a failure. Okay, मतलब अच्छा, so people will not say you pivoted. People will say, he was doing a social travel network, but now it didn't work. So he has now changed it to something. So are you seeing the word pivot is not being used? But why was it done? Like in our case, we pivoted twice. Okay,
Oh,
from a social travel network to a community powered marketplace. And then from a community powered marketplace, we even became a subscription led model where we have a subscription on the top of the funnel and a marketplace at the bottom of the funnel. Now, there can be two ways, right? The biggest myth is that, oh, it was not working, so he changed. But others can also say that, he pivoted smartly. So
yeah.
I think that that is the biggest myth that is there, that, pivoting is a failure.
Hmm.
And if it was a failure, then we can even say that YouTube and Instagram are failures. But we know that it's not, right?
So when should founder not pivot?
The founder should not pivot when, he thinks that it's a fancy thing to do.
Okay.
Founder should not pivot because, the investors are saying तेरी company नहीं चल रही है.
Hmm.
Founder should not pivot when he's sitting and having a drink in a pub with a friend, and the friend says that, oh, your product तो ये this is not right यार, ऐसे थोड़ी चलेगा, ये आगे थोड़ी ऐसे होगा. Founder should not pivot just because, he has heard somebody say that, you should pivot. Then that's wrong. And not only that, even if a founder feels he has to pivot, and I've written this in my chapter 3, which is how to pivot. He should then take the entire team into confidence. Because if you are pivoting and your team is not okay with that, then you will never succeed. So your majority people, who are your every company has like, 5 or 6 or 10 people in a small SME. I'm not talking large companies. I mean, if you have 30 people, you will have, I'm sure, 8, 9 people who are very important to you, right? You have to talk to them. You have to tell them this is what I'm planning to do. If there is resistance and people say, no, 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 we cannot, then you first have to convince them. So I think you should not pivot when you think that, oh, I want to pivot. It's such a cool thing to do. You
Hmm.
should not pivot, when you are seeing, by following a herd mentality. And lastly, you should never pivot because someone else told you to.
Sir, if you are starting again today, so what should you pivot faster?
If I had, if I'm starting over today, I would have pivoted faster to my marketplace and subscription model, which took me around, 3 years. But in my support, honestly speaking, we had the entire COVID and then the repercussions of COVID, which lasted for 2.5 years. So we have gone through a very tough phase because the biggest two categories and industries which suffered during COVID, one was travel and the second was events. So at
That's
the end
true.
of the day, for us, I always say we are not a 5-year-old company. We are just a, 2.5-year-old company. Because if you take
Mhm.
out the impact of COVID, even we
Hmm.
started our office, 2 years back because we couldn't even come to office, right? So I think, it's a lot of learning that we have got, but I wish that, we had done it sooner. But honestly speaking, it was not in our hands.
Hmm. Sir, basically, as far as I came to know, your book is a blend of psychology with business. So, why was that important, and how does this book differ from a typical startup, or I would say a typical business book, because it has psychology in it?
No, I think, I won't say I'm not a psychology major or somebody to say that I have done a psychology book. But I think what I have done is starting with the chapter or the part which is called the psychology of pivoting. If you take, because some people are not open to pivots and some people are open to pivots. And it happens because of your upbringing. So if you read the book, I have talked about my upbringing. My father was a power plant engineer, and I have
Oh,
stayed in more than 15 places in India. I have
that's
studied across 15 places. I have been in Odisha. I have been in Madhya Pradesh. I have been in Uttar Pradesh. I have been in Goa. I have been in the border of Bangladesh, a town called Farakka. I have been, and I have been, all these places I've been in different schools, different friends. We have gone and set up our house again and again, like an army kid, right? You can say I
yeah.
was like an army kid. So for me, change comes very naturally. I don't have to struggle with change. For some people, change is not comfortable. So that's where it is a psychology. Because it's not coming just because of your startup, it's coming because of who you are.
Mhm.
That's one. The
Yeah.
second thing is the Maslow's hierarchy, right? Which is again something to do with psychology. So Maslow's hierarchy states that on the top you have the self-actualization, and in the
Self-control.
bottom, you have the physical needs,
Hmm.
so physical needs, social needs,
Basic
all
needs.
that, right? So basically, for many people, like someone like me, and I know I'm not alone. When I was working at Facebook, when I was getting that very good salary, everything was sorted. Why would anyone want to leave, right? So at the age of 60. For me, I've also wrote in the book how the 1 3-minute video of the Amazon founder, Jeff Bezos, completely changed my life. It is called as the regret minimization theory. It's available on YouTube. It's a 3-minute video. And
Hmm.
honestly speaking, what Jeff Bezos says in that is, you know, would you regret not taking this decision when you were 80 years old? And that's how he built Amazon because he was also in a very good private job. And the question was that should he start a bookstore called Amazon? But he took that thinking of the regret minimization model. So I think,
Yeah.
a lot of this is psychology. Like, if you are at the top of the self-actualization, then maybe, you feel that, okay, the bigger question comes, when I die, how will I be remembered? Okay.
Yeah.
Or the bigger question comes, what's my purpose? What's my ikigai?
Hmm.
So ultimately, when you are working in a company, you are not going to be leading that company, right? You are just one
That's
of the many. So that's
hmm.
why it's a psychology, and that's how it is a bit different. But as the book progresses, it becomes more of a business book with frameworks, with metrics, with exercises. In fact, the book also has exercise, 5 to 6 exercises after each part. And I don't want the readers to continue. In fact, this book should not be read in one go. What I would
Hmm.
recommend is it's a small book, but it should be read like in 5 days. So you should read one part and then do the exercises. And then you should read the
Hmm.
next part and do the exercises. So that you actually can apply and think, oh, okay, do I really need to pivot? Do I have a
Hmm.
psychology of pivoting? So all of that.
So there are a few of the things like we can say confidence, we can say patience, we can say persistence, stubbornness. So how do you separate? Let's go for one by one. How do you separate persistence from stubbornness in a business?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Very nice question. So the best way to explain this is something called as a sunken cost fallacy. It's
Hmm.
written in the book and it's called sunken cost fallacy.
Okay.
Sunken cost fallacy means, and this will answer your question. Sunken cost fallacy means when you keep pursuing something to the point where the cost of pursuing that is far more than what it will give you even in the future. Sunken
Oh,
cost fallacy basically means when you allow the past to control your future decision, which you have control of. So it's like, you have built a product, example now. You have built a product which is a very technical product, and you are a founder who is non-technical guy. Now you decide that, okay, I am going to build this product. Now you not being technical, you don't have the expertise, so you are hiring people. You are not getting the right quality of people, so these people are not giving you the best of the results. But you are adamant, okay, that I am going to build a tech product.
yeah.
So you keep investing, you keep spending money, you keep getting people, you keep firing people. People will come, people will go. But you are now, so you had said two things, stubborn and perseverance, persistence. Now you're
Persistence.
being stubborn. Now you're being stubborn. You're not
Hmm.
persistent,
Yeah.
right? Initially you are persistent, but
Hmm.
now you've actually become stubborn.
Stubborn.
ये तो करना ही है अब तो. अब सर पैसे मतलब हमारे पास सिर्फ अनदर 20 लाख रुपए पड़े हुए हैं. नहीं नहीं
Hmm.
नहीं. I want to hire people, just best guys. But the last product that he made was not a good product. It had lots of crashes and it had a
Hmm.
2.2 star rating. No no no, I will better it. That's stubbornness.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you
Got
are
it.
using your past to control your future,
Control your future.
then that's a sunken cost fallacy.
But sometimes things doesn't work. Yeah, is the you think of the model and isn't working. So how does a builder, I mean the builder, the founder, maintain that confidence of going further?
Yeah, so that's a very tough one. For a founder, there are days, and I'm sure there are very famous memes available, or there are a lot of these infographics on Google. You must have seen life of a founder, right? A founder basically, it's a very famous graph. You can Google it. It shows the founder says on Monday morning, I am the king. The next morning, he says that next evening, he says, I am such an idiot. The VC told me that, my idea sucks. Then, Wednesday, the founder is like, no, I can still do it. And then Thursday, the founder is like, I need to quit. I should not be. Why did I leave my job? Why did I do that? And in Friday evening, he'll be like, well, he had gone to a party and maybe people said your product is amazing. He's like, wow, I am just the best in the world. So honestly speaking, it's the day, the life of a founder, is always very topsy-turvy. The only way, it's a very good question from you because it has a direct implication to my life and the book also. So I had a very tough time in 2024, and there were a lot of things going on during that time, where we had a co-founder split, which was not easy at all. And similarly, there was, the company was not doing the amount of revenue I had envisioned. That's when we did the subscription and the community marketplace that happened. So I had a panic attack in 2024, 10th of June. Okay. Because so many things were happening. Okay. I mistook it for a heart attack, but it was not a heart attack. The doctor told me later that your mind is so clogged that you're thinking so many things that it's not able to take it. And that's why the anxiety attack happened. So what helped me actually in the future in 2025 and now in 2026 is to be in the present, is to use meditation and deep breathing and running. So I think, and sleep. So I think sleep is non-negotiable for a founder, I feel. I mean, it's not very cool, people say, oh, मैं तो 3 घंटा सोया था, 4 घंटा सोया था. Maybe for a 25-year-old founder, you can do that. As I am a 45-year-old founder, I ensure I do 7 hours of sleep. And I have heard the big legendary unicorn founders like Deepinder Goyal and all also say they put a lot of time into sleep. The second thing is exercise. 1 hour of exercise, non-negotiable. आपको मैराथन करना है, आपको रनिंग करनी है, आपको वॉकिंग करना है, आपको स्टेयर्स चढ़ना है, बट यू हैव टू डू दैट. And the third thing is meditation and deep breathing. So I realized that these three things are game changer because exercise gives you positive dopamine and adrenaline that is good for your health. It makes you feel positive.
Yeah.
Sleep, meditation, and deep breathing, and I mentioned exercise. I think these are three things that keep you. Two very important things are required for not going mad when you run a startup because every startup necessarily doesn't become a Zomato, right? Or doesn't become a Google. So then does that mean that all the founders are not good and only these people are good? Probably not, right? So at the end of the day, I think two things are very important. Catastrophizing that we should not do. I call it, one is called catastrophizing. I'll explain what that means. And the second thing is uh, one is catastrophizing. This let's talk catastrophizing only first.
Okay.
Catastrophizing is basically when you say that आज मेरे पास इतना पैसा है कंपनी में आज ये हो रहा है अगर मुझे पैसे नहीं मिले तो अब यू हैव 6 months बट यू आर लाइक अगर मुझे 6 महीने बाद पैसे नहीं मिले तो मेरी कंपनी बंद हो जाएगी दैट इज कॉल्ड कैटास्ट्रोफाइजिंग अभी मेरी सैलरी इतनी है एज ए फाउंडर आगे अगर मुझे पैसा नहीं मिला तो मैं अपना घर कैसे चलाऊंगा कैटास्ट्रोफाइजिंग so I think that can only be negated if you are having a positive mind and you are in the present, and that can happen using these three things: sleep, meditation, and some form of exercise. I think the other thing that I was trying to say along with catastrophizing is same actually, being negative and yeah, now I remember, comparing too much with others. I think that's another very big problem because you feel that oh मेरे को तो सक्सेस नहीं मिला सामने वाले उस बंदे को सक्सेस मिल गया उसको शार्क टैंक में मिल गया उसको इसमें मिल गया उसको इसमें मिल गया ऑनेस्टली जितना देखेंगे उतना ज्यादा लगेगा कि आई एम नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग एवरीवन इज डूइंग बेटर सो बट देन इट्स ऑल कनेक्टेड यू कैन नॉट सी सोशल मीडिया राइट अब ऐसा तो आप नहीं करोगे कि आप इंस्टाग्राम नहीं खोलोगे बट आई थिंक these three things I'll highly recommend even to younger founders also. Stay as clean as possible, uh, lean towards spirituality, lean towards meditation, and have some kind of exercise, sleep well, and that will keep you grounded, sane, to handle the pressures that you will face in the future.
Great. So when we talk about readers, so for the readers, what kind of readers this book is, we can say a manual.
You see, I really would wish that more youngsters will read this book. I really wish that, they read this book and find out a few things that I'll be very glad if they come and tell that, we saw this mistake that you had made. We will be careful while doing it. So that's my sole objective of this book. But it's not just that it's only for founders, even for young founders, even for people who are my age. They might also feel after reading this book, oh, arey, I was not alone. Even this guy had this problem. So honestly speaking, my audience, I would say, is I would want the young people to be my audience or people who are planning to start their company. But even people who have started and will read this book, they will relate to it. So I think this is mostly a book for the age group of, I would say, 25 to 50.
No.
Because I think post that, any which ways, if you have achieved and all that, then this book is not really that relevant to you because सीखने को कुछ बचा नहीं and you already have done a lot of stuff and everything. So I think this is the age group that it targets.
Yeah. So if readers wanted to take just one lesson, so what should be your favorite one? I know it's many, but your favorite one.
There is no shortcut, I feel,
Okay.
to scale and success. And I'm not just saying it because I am saying it. You look at Zomato, you look at LinkedIn, you look at Facebook, you look at Google, you look at YouTube. There is no shortcut. So you have to do the hard things the hard way. Uh, so I think that's my only simple point. And because there is no shortcut, I think persistence, perseverance, patience, and pivoting play a very, very critical role. I use pivoting in the end, so maybe you can say the four P's:
Yeah.
persistent, patience, pivoting, and I think I said patience, persistence, perseverance, and pivoting.
Yeah, great. So at last, I hope by this discussion, audience got to know that through psychology, through case studies, and through actionable frameworks, certain exercises that this book explains, it answers very tough questions like when to stay, when to change, and how to pivot without losing a purpose, I would say. So thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, sir. Have a great time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.